The Nebraska legislature's 2026 session has ignited a critical debate with Legislative Bill 886, introduced by State Senator Bob Anderson, which seeks to invalidate all driver's licenses held by undocumented immigrants, including those legally issued by other states. This measure represents a positive move in the right direction, as it directly confronts the risks posed by allowing illegal aliens to operate vehicles on Nebraska roads. The bill recognizes that undocumented drivers from permissive states like California or New York endanger Nebraska citizens, given documented arrests of undocumented commercial drivers in other jurisdictions. By classifying driving without a Nebraska-recognized license as a misdemeanor, the legislation prioritizes enforcement and public safety, aligning with similar 2025 measures in Florida and Tennessee that criminalized use of out-of-state undocumented licenses. This bill is essential because granting drivers licenses to illegal aliens is beyond reproach. Illegal aliens have no right to be in the United States or Nebraska, and providing them with licenses enables criminal activity, evasion of deportation, and exploitation of state resources. Even legal immigrants, asylum seekers, and so-called refugees receiving driver's licenses create unacceptable burdens. These groups often lack English proficiency, leading to safety hazards on roads where all signage is in English. Nebraska's policy of allowing non-English written tests in 9 languages and interpreters for road tests results in drivers who cannot read, stop, or yield, endangering citizens who fund the system. The Restriction Code 9, requiring an English reading companion, is rarely enforced, rendering it meaningless. Opponents of the bill, who argue it harms safety by discouraging insurance or law enforcement cooperation, operate from motivations that are both clueless and corrupt. Their claims ignore data, showing lower uninsured rates in restrictive states, and overlook the core fact that all aliens should not be driving at all. These arguments often stem from advocacy groups funded by open border interests, prioritizing volume of migration over citizen welfare. The bill's exemptions for active duty military, full-time students, and temporary agricultural workers weaken its impact, as no illegal alien deserves any license. These exemptions must be removed to eliminate loopholes that allow undocumented individuals to remain in Nebraska under false pretenses. The legislation brings the subject of illegal aliens in Nebraska to light, but it does not go far enough. Nebraska must work with the DMV to identify these individuals, as the DMV records immigration status internally for all applicants. A comprehensive registry of credentialed non-citizens could be compiled from existing data, enabling law enforcement to locate and remove illegal aliens. The DMV acts as the sovereign gatekeeper, where federal parole becomes state privilege. By controlling credential issuance, Nebraska can restrict not only illegal immigration, but also legal non-citizens, parolees, and immigrants with status, reducing their numbers and impact. The DMV gatekeeper role in restricting migration. The Nebraska DMV represents the state's most powerful tool to control immigration, as it decides who receives the credential that unlocks driving, employment verification, banking, and domestic travel. Federal immigration policy controls borders, but states control licenses and IDs, allowing Nebraska to deny privileges to legal non-citizens and parolees by rejecting federal documents like Form I-94 or I-766. This rejection would deter settlement, as modern life in rural Nebraska requires a license for work and mobility. States like Arizona and Texas have used similar restrictions to reduce migration from restricted categories. The process for legal non-citizens to obtain a license highlights the DMV's bottleneck position. Applicants present federal paperwork, pass vision screening, written knowledge test in 9 languages for non-English speakers, and road test with interpreter for 5 commands. Non-English passers get Restriction Code 9, but enforcement is minimal, creating safety issues. The legislature delegates this framework to the DMV director, who sets protocols under Title 247 NAC. The governor appoints the director and can direct changes via executive order. Citizens can push for reforms by contacting senators, testifying at transportation committee hearings, or petitioning the director for rulemaking to end non-English testing. This citizen-driven approach makes the DMV a direct route to immigration control, as restricting licenses reduces incentives for non-citizens to choose Nebraska. Fraud and unfairness in the credentialing system. Fraud saturates the system, from forged federal documents passing say verification to sponsor deception in parole programs. Legal non-citizens and parolees exploit child-only benefits, emergency Medicaid, and NGO grants funded by taxpayers, costing billions. These schemes are layered. Federal grants to NGO subgrant to local charities, providing cash and housing that direct welfare prohibits. In Nebraska, the DMV's internal records could expose this, but no registry exists, allowing fraud to persist. Unfairness to citizens is glaring. A parolee who entered months ago obtains driving privileges identical to a lifelong Nebraskan, despite paying no prior taxes and facing no English requirement. Citizens fund the system, yet receive no extra privileges for residency. The DMV's accommodations, non-English tests, and interpreters put non-proficient drivers on roads, endangering citizens who obey English signage. The bill's exemptions for military, students, and agricultural workers perpetuate this unfairness, as no undocumented individual deserves a license. Removing them would strengthen the measure, forcing illegal aliens out of Nebraska and reducing burdens on citizens. Citizen action to reform DMV policies. Nebraskans can contact the governor's office 402-471-2244 or governor.nebraska.gov to demand executive orders restricting parole-based documents. Senators, found at nebraskalegislature.gov, can introduce bills amending NRS 60 to 484.04 to exclude temporary statuses. Public hearings allow testimony, pushing for English-only testing, and non-citizen registries. Petitions to the DMV director, dmv.director@nebraska.gov, force rulemaking within 60 days to end accommodations. County sheriffs and election commissioners can submit resolutions highlighting safety and fraud risks, amplifying pressure. This grassroots approach empowers citizens to control immigration as restricting DMV access deed or settlement without federal involvement. The inept federal government enables entry, but states control the privileges that make residency viable. The path forward: state control over federal immigration. The bill is a positive step, but requires expansion to eliminate exemptions and target legal non-citizens. Nebraska's legislature and governor must collaborate with the DMV to identify credentialed non-citizens using internal records for enforcement. This positions the DMV as the gatekeeper, where states reclaim sovereignty. By denying licenses, Nebraska reduces non-citizen numbers, easing burdens on citizens. Public opinion, channeled through contacts and petitions, can drive these changes, proving states hold a real power over immigration impacts. This framework impacts the nation, as Nebraska's actions set precedents for other states to restrict migration through credential control. Citizens who act now secure their communities against federal failures. Conclusion: reclaiming Nebraska's roads through sovereign control. The Nebraska Department of Motor Vehicles remains the most powerful and immediately available instrument for citizens to reassert control over who shares their highways, communities, and daily life. Every credential issued to a parolee or lawful non-citizen transforms a temporary federal admission into permanent-looking legitimacy, granting driving authority, domestic flight access, banking identification, and employment verification that no citizen has earned through lifelong residency alone. The state's voluntary acceptance of revocable federal documents, combined with administrative accommodation of non-English testing, has created a pipeline that bypasses citizen consent and places non-proficient drivers on English-only roadways. This arrangement is neither mandated nor inevitable. The legislature holds the authority to amend NRS 60 to 484.04 and exclude every temporary status from lawful presence definitions. The governor can direct the DMV director to suspend processing for parole-based documents through executive order. The director can withdraw foreign language testing and interpreter accommodations via existing rulemaking power. Citizens possess direct channels, senator contact, committee testimony, rulemaking petitions, and ballot initiatives to demand these changes. When exercised, these levers produce measurable deterrence, as demonstrated in states that have restricted non-citizen credentialing. Nebraska's citizens therefore stand at the threshold of genuine sovereignty. The DMV is not merely an administrative agency, it is the gate where federal immigration policy meets state prerogative. Closing that gate requires no federal permission, no congressional action, and no executive overreach. It requires only the collective will of Nebraskans to insist that driving privileges in their state belong to citizens and select permanent residents, not to parolees, asylees, or any category of temporary non-citizen. The power to end this era of unchecked integration rests entirely within Nebraska's own institutions and its people.